Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Arizona Net Cross Platform user group. Today, we're going to be talking about cross database data sync with SQLite MAUI with my good friend Dev Express and Microsoft MVP Hocho Ojeda. I think that we have done a couple of data syncs meetup where we discuss about syncing data with XPO, syncing data with Entity Framework. Now we're going to talking in the MAUI realm. And this is a talk that it touched a lot of good feelings in me because we have done several projects where we have struggled a lot doing data synchronization and doing it right, because it's also synchronizing your business data, synchronizing deltas, make sure what is your true source of truth, and so on, so on. So before we start, I will let Hoche introduce himself. It's always a pleasure to hear what he has to say, and we will dive right into it. Hoche.
Okay, Javier, thank you. So, hi, everyone. My name is Hocho Ojeda. I work for Sari and Bit Frameworks. And today I'm going to present my open source project, the Sync Framework. So, we're going to talk about a little bit about the new things that I want to add, that people ask me to add, and a small demonstration on how to do cross-database synchronization between SQLite and SQL Server using MAUI. So it's going to be an interesting topic.
All right, Hoche. So I'll stop sharing and I will.
Okay. So let's see. This is going to be tricky because sometimes, well, when you know that when you use the Android emulator now, it only allows to show in a specific screen. So that's why I'm sharing this. Okay, so to start the talk, what I want to show you is the Sync framework. This is an open source framework for Entity Framework Core, and it's also a set of contracts that you can use to implement your own synchronization. From whatever source it came, it's like the concept is kind of the same always. You need to accomplish one equation, and it doesn't matter over what you're using it. It can be a database, it can be a file, it can be byte arrays even. So anything that you can imagine. So the theory is exactly the same. So there are two versions of the Sync framework. One is for XPO. This is like a private version in the sense that this is licensed and is closed source. And the one for Entity Framework that is open source and is free to use. So here in the repo, you can find like a lot of information about how we extended the Entity Framework infrastructure, how we calculate, I mean, what is the idea of the synchronization, the parts that we are using, like the small services. And most of the theoretical part, or also you can find in these links. Then the current version, sorry, I need to update it. This is targeting net. Well, the base part is net 6. That will be the standard. But the current version for Entity Framework, I guess I should split this, is net 8. That's the new version. So you can find this in a NuGet. So this is the new version, the 1.12, almost 12. So this is good. I think the last version that's going to be 1. Today we're going to talk about version 2. So, and then there is a small playground. This is really nice. Is this first is WebAssembly. Second, everything happens on memory. We will do a small demo of this later. And then small information on how to implement it. To be honest, the implementation is kind of really simple. So is something that we found that is really practical to implement. We accomplished this by creating a lot of abstractions, like basically adding services and adding extensions. So we can say something like add synchronization and a few parameters, and that's it. So here you'll find information on how to implement that type of synchronization. And beside that, we have another interesting part. All of this is kind of how it works on the implementation, but we also have some things that can be useful to start. For example, we have the templates, the project templates. These are kind of really, really old. I mean, but the code has not changed. Only the target versions have changed. So, for example, if I want to install the templates, I'll copy this command. Then I open a new command prompt. And we paste the command and we install the templates. In this case, I already have them. But if you paste this, you will get the project templates for the CLI. Okay, so here's a little bit of information on how to use the template. Or you can just do something like this to create a new sync server. So let's create one instance now just to show the example. So desktop. Okay, so okay, so this is empty. I'm using the other commands for Linux. So if I want to create a sync server, I just copy this and go to the console, paste that, and done. In this case, I'm going to create something that's called my sync server. So if I do this here, so you see we have a folder, and if we go there, again, we have a project. I think I cannot open this in code, so let's see. And it's my you can also open this using Visual Studio. Just for the command line is more practical, but yeah, open the project, but not the project itself. So let's go here. Let's go through the file manager desktop. And just 1 second. Second. Okay, so here we can open the project. I can let's already got associated with Visual Studio Code. Okay, and this is opening the other screen. So let's. Okay, so after you use the template, this is how the project will be. So that's basically almost what you need for implement synchronization. So here, this contains the controller and everything that you need to implement the API. And also here in the program, you can see how to do the setup for this. In this case, we're doing the most basic setup, which is just adding a store in memory. So the server can store the deltas and then you can do the exchange. So this, you can just run it and that's it. Of course, this will not save the state, but for that, you can persist it in Entity Framework or XPO. The lines are there already. So for demo purposes, it's easy to do something like this to implement like the memory server only. And see, you have the Swagger and you have the methods, fetch and push. So that's it. Okay, so now that we have the server, we can implement either the synchronization for XPO or for Entity Framework. In this case, I'm going to use Entity Framework. So for that, I have prepared a small example that I was working in the afternoon, which is kind of really simple, but the main problem that you have to use MAUI, and sometimes MAUI can be a little bit temperamental. So here we have the same case. So I already created the server from before. The server is standalone. See, there is no dependencies of other projects or anything. And if you want to add some dependencies, you can add Entity Framework or XPO to persist the state. Again, the lines are here in the program. You just need to uncomment them. So the server is totally independent. So I have also a model, a simple model here. So I have two classes. And basically a context, which is expose this DB set of blocks. So this model we share between the MAUI application. So here in projects model and the console application. They are both sharing the same context. So basically what we're going to do is spin off the server and then the console application and exchange data between both of them. Okay, so here, I want to show you how easy it is to implement. I mean, how much code we need to actually write. So let's start with the console application. Here I put it actually in the main page. There is a small method. I'm not using MVVM or anything for this example because it's not about MVVM patterns or anything. I just want to do the most simple, straightforward example on how to use synchronization without any interference from other ideas like how to use the MVVM pattern or dependency service in MAUI. So, okay, here the main method is this one in its sync framework. So in this case, this is created by concepts. So these are some constants that we need for MySQL. Then after that, we need to decide, okay, we're saving here in SQLite. So which database I want to use for synchronization. I mean, I want to synchronize to Postgres, to Oracle, to SQL Server, whatever. So depending on your target database, you need to include the delta generators. This is kind of more neat. There's a more neat implementation in XPO because it's totally agnostic, and here you have to include something for each database. So then we have the delta generators. We created an array, and we pass that to the to the scene framework. But first, we need, in this case, we are in the MAUI client. So we define the path for the two database for the data and the deltas. And then we add a context option builder. And we tell that, okay, let's use SQLite. This is the normal SQLite extension. You don't have to do anything special. This is pure entity framework core code. And that will basically add all the information needed to actually use SQLite for this DB context. And then we have to create like a service collection, and to that we will pass the additional data generators, the identity of this node, and where should we save the deltas in the server. So after that, we have to add this is like some type of boilerplate code for the indexes of the deltas. This used to be a Git, but now we changed it for like a service that provide the next number, the next ID, because you cannot count that OIDs will be, or Git types will be in the same order. You cannot sort them sometimes, or it goes crazy. So this is kind of one of the latest changes. And with that, you create context. You pass the options, and then you pass the services that we have created. And with that, you have the DB context to ensure that it's created. So this is basically all the code that you will need to do it in MAUI. After that is pure CRUD operations as you want to do them. Also, there are a few extensions that we have added, so we can make synchronization a little bit more simple. So after you initialize your context, there are like two operations that you can do, basically, or three, but one is optional. The first one is pull. So here we have this, we have a button here to pull and to push. So to do those operations, we need to get a context. And with the context, we have some extensions that allows you to pull, push, or fetch in the case that you just want to see what is in the server. So as you can see, like the implementation, this is the initialization is 112. It's around 60 lines with a lot of spaces. And then just here 3, and the other method is also 3 lines. So in less than 100 lines, you have the synchronization totally implemented. And that's all for the MAUI client. Then it's kind of the same idea for the console client. The method is even the same method. Here we just have a lot of boilerplate code to do the menus and everything like that. So here the init is the same amount of lines, and it's exactly the same code. So we create the delta generators, then we set the connection strings. Here, instead of using SQLite, we use SQL Server. And everything else is the same. This is just a test code that I was adding, so it's actually not needed. It continues exactly in the same way as the one for SQLite. Actually, the only line that is different is use SQL Server instead of use SQLite. Everything else is conceptually the same. And a lot of boilerplate code for the menus. So this is going to be in these two databases. And I'm going to spin up the server and spin up both applications and do some synchronization. And let's cross the fingers because, like demo gods. And these demos are complicated because of MAUI. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so This is kind of tricky to start up, and I was trying to do it in Windows, but the MAUI application for Windows didn't start. So I decided to go, okay, let's go for Android, which is not also easy, but it was easier this time. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is like I'm going to spin up the server. So I have this as a startup project, so I can use nrock. So here we have the instance of nrock, which is basically a reverse proxy. It gives me an public URL for my local IP. That's basically what it does. So the Android device can see it because it cannot see the local network. So see the two methods that we have in the controller for synchronization. So I can access this URL with this other URL. So I can put this here. And I don't need the port and it's localhost anymore. So, okay, you will see is the Swagger app. So, okay, now we need to, I'm going to copy this. And we need to spin up one of the other applications. So first, let me check if this is clean. I don't have any application here. Let's start the console client. And start a new instance. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do in this console application is set the URL for the server, so option 1. And here we have the URL. Okay, and now let's list the blocks that we have. Now it's initializing the connection to the database and doing ensure that it's created. So it will take more time the first time, but that's what happened in any entity framework application. Okay, there are no blocks, so let's create some. So option 2 is going to be demo 1. Demo 1. Okay, so we have a block. Let's create another one. 2, 2, demo 2. And now let's list them. Okay, I have those two records and I can show you in the database. So let's see the data. We have 2 blocks. We should have 2 blocks. Okay, and since there is one delta for each transaction, we should have 2 deltas too. Okay, we have these 2 deltas. So now let's run the MAUI client. And this is the tricky part because you know how MAUI can be. I hope that I'm using the latest version, like the last version of the framework, which is not published yet. So uh, it's basically a night build. So let's see how it goes. And well, about MAUI, this takes forever, but let's see. After this, we will see just like small features that we're going to add to the sync framework for version 2. The changes are like kind of minimal, but it will change a lot how it feels, because right now there is no extra information. There is nothing that allows you to audit easily the synchronization. So since the synchronization has been really stable for long, what we want to add is something that makes it more usable. So let's see. Okay, finally started. Okay, I speak too early. Okay, so here the client is beautiful because I'm super good in the UIs, but no. I did this in a rush today because my other demo was not loading, so it was MAUI thing. So I had to come up with something fast. Okay, so let's initialize this. And it's the same process. It creates a database, and it gives you a DB context in the end. And the first time has to create a database, so it's kind of a little bit heavier on the time. Okay, so we have created initialized the framework. So now let's create blocks. So block 1. Okay, and we have these 2 blocks. So let's push them to the server. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, I think I have a breakpoint here. Yes, in both methods. So let's see. Let's push them to the server. And here they come. I mean, if we intercept the request, we can see the payload and everything. I just overwrite it to show you that it's triggering. Now the other application can do pull. So here you can see the request, the starting index and everything. So let's see. So here you have the request. And it basically like give me all the deltas that are not mine since this last index. Okay, we got the deltas from the mobile application. So now let's list the blocks again. Now I have the same as in the mobile app. So it goes both ways. If I continue doing here, I can push them and then pull them and so on and so forth. So this repo is public, so I can share the link actually. So let's see. I will put this in the chat. Or well, you can get it from my repo anyway. Like here is like Sync Framework MAUI demo. It's like really easy. And in the chat. So now it's time to talk about version 2 before we go. So I will just show this with the even with the PowerPoint running. So this is the roadmap for version 2. So we have a few goals that we want to accomplish. And is first extend implementations, add more providers, and add more type of data stores. Then governance and control. The idea is that we should create more utilities that allow you to understand the state of your synchronization. And also the next goal will be like common login. We have like a kind of a mix up of login infrastructure. And the last one will be to create events. We should allow the user to handle some custom events and give them extra information of the stuff that are happening that can create really interesting scenarios. So let's talk about these ideas. So to extend the implementation, we want to add two types of delta stores. Deltas are binary data in the end. It doesn't matter what we're doing, like if it's a picture, text, or a database. What we store is like a binary representation. So it means that this can be stored in a file system like S3 or IPFS, which I like a lot, like interplanetary file system. So these are the new delta stores that are going to exist. Then regarding governance and control, here the idea is to implement the sync status, which will give you the source of truth of each node. What was the last process delta? Which was the last data that they sent? And last time that they connected, and so on and so forth. So you will, right now you have like in this big pot, all the deltas from all the clients. So with this idea is that you can track who sent which part and in which order. So I think it will add a lot of like interesting information. So sync rules. Sometimes your clients are so old that you don't want them to sync back again. Or you want to tell like, okay, if you have not do that in today, this information is useless. So we're going to introduce sync rules that can be executed before you send data or pull data from the server. We want to have a user interface. So this will be probably a SAF application that can read the information on the server and show it graphically, because it will be really useful instead of having to go and check the database and so on. And last one, but really useful, is we had this like long time ago in the version 0 of this, a way to create snapshots. Sometimes you don't want your client to download thousands of deltas. You just want to create a database in the current state and then start from there. So the idea is like, imagine that you add a new client to your mobile set of clients. And everyone has already like 3 megabytes or 5 megabytes of information. So instead of you having to make the client download all the deltas and process them, you can just create a copy of the database, download it to the client, and then start from there, synchronize. And so it gives you, it puts the new node to the same level of all the other nodes without having to process all deltas. That is good if you add like really often new clients. And there, the delta events that the events that we want to introduce are mostly in the delta part, which is in the delta stores. We want to have an event for before creating the delta that you can, that means when we are processing the changes that are coming, and after the delta is created. So what happened when it was saved already? So you can use it for your own statistics or like any other like audit information. Right now, there is no easy way to do this. And in the Delta processors, also, we want to introduce the same mechanisms to pull when you process the Delta, when you're pulling, for example, we want to give you some times at the beginning of the process so you can check, okay, what is in the deltas? Is this correct? The date is correct? Like, I mean, is to all information, or what can I do to it? Like, take some decisions over it, like some control over the flow. And the same after the delta is processed, you can mark it, analyze it, use it for benchmarks. There's a lot of interesting use cases. And for the login, basically the idea is to introduce the iLogger from .NET, nothing special, but that is the same everywhere, because right now it's not the same concept. Like in some places you can only see the console, and some places you can go to a file, but it's not correctly implemented. And that's basically it. So this was the roadmap for the version 2, which is like small changes, but it will be a big difference between the version 1 and 2 with this information that we want to expose. And the new version of the entity framework for Sync, of the Sync framework for entity framework core is, sorry, sometimes this is a mouthful to say, is targeting net 8. So basically is the newest, shiniest bytes that we can provide. I mean, this will work for all the 8 versions, and that's it. In any case, if you have any problems with these implementations, or you have a doubt or something, you can just open a new issue here. And we will try to answer you back as soon as possible. This is an open source project, so if you feel like you want to lend some hands, also you can contact me and we can continue the project. So, well, that's everything for today, my friends. If you have any doubt, you can contact me through this repository.
Hey, Joche, as always, that's a great presentation. I'm really excited about everything that we're going to accomplish there, and looking forward to that version 2. For everyone who joined us, thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.